Hey there, guys. Well, as some of you know, I don't use Windows. I don't use Mac OS. I use Linux. In particular, I use Arch Linux. And this can, from time to time, create problems when you're trying to play games like, I don't know, Football Manager. And so, I don't know, let's say that I do something really silly, like buy the latest version of Football Manager, and I find myself maybe a little bit stuck. So here I am with Football Manager 24. This is Steam. I'll try to make this a little bit bigger, but it's not going to be exactly huge. You can see here that this install button doesn't do anything. It tells me it's available for Windows and Mac. And what do I do? Do I just say, okay, well, whatever, I just wasted my money? Of course not. What we do is we right-click here, go to Properties. Now, what we want to do is go down to Compatibility, and we want to force the use of a specific Steam Play compatibility tool. And you can choose what you want to use. I'm going to use actually GE Proton 827, which is a version of Proton that I downloaded from GitHub. You could also use just Proton Experimental, Proton 9.0, whatever it is that you want to use, and sort of mess around with this as you see fit. Once I do that, it allows me to install the game. And then I can go ahead and click on Install. I'll install it here to my local drive. It has me accept everything. And we kind of go from there. So in other words, if you are interested in playing this game on Steam and or on Linux, and you're worried because there's not an official Linux version, don't worry. In fact, the fact that it works on the Steam Deck alone means that you will have a Linux version because the Steam Deck runs Linux, right? This is something you can do not necessarily with every game. There are a lot of games, as you may know, that have anti-cheat things and so on that are built into Windows that require access to the kernel. If you're running Linux, you probably don't want that to happen. But a game like Football Manager, more or less, you're going to be able to do this and play it just fine. And like I said, if you can play it for the Steam... if you can play it on the Steam console, you should be able to play it on anything that's Linux related because it's all Linux all the way down. So when we go back over here, look at the screen, we can see that we're just about done. There's a little bit more, though, that we have to worry about. And one of the things that we really need to worry about is sort of where the install directories are. So we go back over here to Properties, install files, and we can browse here the location on the shared drive. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to get rid of this and get rid of this as well. This will give us an idea of where the games are. Now, you want to do it this way because every single installation of Linux is a little bit different, right? It depends upon what version of Linux you're running. Now, this will tell you where the FM24 so-called common files are, right? This is stuff like where the data directory is. This is going to give you your gain files. If you're going to do the, I don't know, like the patch to get all of the real names in for all the teams and stuff like that. That all happens over here, right? You, for the most part, want to make sure that you have this kind of saved over here on the side. And that will help you out a little bit in terms of doing that. The other thing that you want to do here is you want to make sure that, so this is, of course, assuming you're using Dolphin. The other thing that you want to do here is you're going to want to make sure that you take a look over here for where the files and directories are actually saved, right? So the way that this works, I'm going to look at FM23 here for a second. The way that this works on Steam or with Proton is it will save stuff to your directory. It saves it under on Arch, local share Steam apps, and compat data. Everything that runs Proton is going to have something that's more or less similar to this. And you have to kind of like experiment around a little bit and look around for different things. If I look, unfortunately, for FM24, I'm not going to find the files there. You need to go into the game and start it first to get all of the directories to show up the way that they should. So I'll show you here on FM23. Basically, this is kind of the way that it works. You go to compat data, and then it's this 1904540. That's a code that, as I understand, corresponds with Steam itself and basically lets you know where the Steam stuff is located. So you click there and go over to PFX. And now this is where you can go to drive C. This basically is a virtual machine, a virtual copy of Windows that resides in your Linux installation for this specific game. Now, the weird thing about Proton that I still don't fully understand is that instead of having like one virtual drive for everything, it has one for each game. So if you have a lot of games using this, you're going to have like a ton of directories you have to go through. You go to drive C. Now, if you go to program files and all this stuff, you're not going to find what you're looking for. You're going to find a bunch of directories that are actually empty, right? They just put like default programs in there. What you want to do is you want to go to users and then Steam user. It's always going to be that. And then you go under, is it documents? Yeah, documents, sports interactive, football manager 2023. And here you go. These folders are important. We're going to talk a little bit later on about why these folders are so important. This is where all of your cool stuff goes. So this is where your editor data files will go. This is where your graphics go. This is where like the tactics you download will go. The filters, the skins you download for the game, and all of this stuff goes into these directories, right? If you're running a PC, it'll be under, just like what we looked at, it'll be under My Documents, right? Yeah, it'll be under Documents instead of My Documents. Maybe it is My Documents, I don't know. If you're running a Mac, it's under Application Support, if I remember right. But if you're running Linux, it's under this like totally bizarre, like spaghetti type, directory structure. And then you go to Sports Interactive and then figure all this stuff out. This is why it's important to use this stuff on the side so you can sort of keep a copy of it here so that you can access that easily for when it's time to take different files, put them over there, copy them over there, look around and do a whole bunch of other stuff with it. So basically that's, the way that this works on Linux when we're installing this stuff from Steam. Now, and in a future video, we're going to talk a little bit more about these directories and take a look and see exactly how they work when it comes to making different downloads, purchasing different stuff and setting stuff up so that we can play Football Manager the way that we want to play it. Now, this is basically the gist of it, and that's how you install this on Linux. Now, with other Linux distros, it's going to be a little bit different. It'll be different in terms of the specific thing that you do. In other words, in terms of the specific directory. But when we're talking about things like the basic steps to, install the game on Steam, how to find where the directory is, how to understand in general the structure, that's going to be the same. You'll want to get into that Steam folder and kind of poke around a little bit and sort of see what you can find and see if you can figure it out. Just remember that with Proton, it is going to install like a virtual machine for that specific program. Now, there's one other thing to look at that's really important. Again, I'm going to show this to you for the FM23 because I don't have it set up quite yet for FM24. The thing that's interesting here is that you see I have 3 of these folders. It's because this one actually leads to different types of folders, including this editor data folder. Why do I have different editor data folders? Well, this one, though it's not marked as such, is actually for the pregame editor, which has its own compat data folder with its own number attached to it. That means that if I'm going to have 2 of these going on at once, I need to have 2 folders open up at the same time. I need to have one of them over here messing around with editor data here. Look at all this editor data that we have to play with. And another one up here for the editor data files in the editor itself, right? So, I mean, I'll even show this to you here. So we go over here and we'll go back to our tools. Remember, to get to this on Steam, you have to click on Tools. And you go over here to the FM2023 editor, right? So you'll remember I have like a billion of these files over here. When we go into the Football Manager editor, and we'll go here into editor mode, assuming that this actually opens up this time. Yeah, where are we? Maybe we're going to have to try this again. We'll try one more time and see if we can get this to open up for us. When we open this up, what we'll see is that all of those bajillion files that we once had are just simply not there. Yeah, here we go. So we go ahead, we'll load our database file. Remember, this is for FM23. And then when we go here to load editor data, we only see a couple of these files. And I'll go back here to the screen view and I'll show you what we're seeing here are not these ones. Look, see, they're completely different. The names are different. I know the screen's small. My apologies for that. Instead, what we're seeing are these files in this other directory. In fact, when you mess around, you go back here to the FM editor. you'll realize after a while that you cannot get to anything else on Linux. You are limited only to this virtual machine that was installed on your machine for the sole purpose of running the FM23 editor. And so that will help explain how that works and how confusing it can be on Steam. Why does it work like this? Why does Proton work like this? I don't know. I mean, I have absolutely no idea. It makes no sense to me. It would seem to me there would be a better use of resources to use a single installation of virtual Windows directories and have everything come from that instead of having a separate one for every game. But I mean, I'm not the one who designed this. I'm not that deep into the world of computer programming and of virtualization, at least not yet, right? So, I mean, what do I know? I'm just some guy who makes a couple of videos and kind of messes around here and there. Anyway, in general, there's the way that this works. If you're looking to install on Arch Linux, this is the way that you would do it. Most versions of Linux are basically the same thing. So, you know, try it out with your version of Linux, and that's the way you get FM24 installed. Hope you have a good day. Bye-bye.